And here we go. Hi there. Oops, what do we have here? Customize your dashboard in Light Producer. Oh, I don't want to do that. Got it. Okay. Of course, it would decide to do that just as soon as... Alright, now at last. And for real, here we are. Hi there. Hello everyone on the Cast Iron Cooking Group. My name is Eric, and I am one of the administrators or moderators of the Cast Iron Cooking Group here on Facebook. I am the one, like it or not, who I guess started this group about just about 10 years ago, in fact. This is something of a 10-year anniversary, in fact. The Cast Iron Cooking Group has been going on officially, Facebook says, since 2012, but actually it really began with a Facebook page just about 10 years ago this very week, and so that's why this is something of a 10-year anniversary for the group. So now is as good a time as any to celebrate, and well, how else do we celebrate but by doing some cast iron cooking? So it's all nice to see everybody here. I do hope folks, above all else, have enjoyed the group. Best I could say is, I think I should probably start off by saying before anything else that I am not being paid for this. This is not any kind of a paid promotion. I'm not a professional chef. Really, this group has been there's more of an education in cooking for me than possibly anybody else here. So, I mean, I have learned a lot from this group, and for that I am eternally grateful. And I can only hope that other people have found the group useful, and and above all else, that we've had fun here over the past 10 years, and we will hopefully continue to be having fun. Now, well, okay. Here, and it's also for this reason that I've tried to do a little bit of everything here tonight. I've got an enameled cast iron pot baking in the oven right now, and we will bring that out in a little while. Meanwhile, well, what else can we do but demonstrate some cast iron of all kinds here. We've got, for starters, yeah, how come this is a cast iron cooking group and yet here I am cooking pasta here in an aluminum pot? Well, one reason why is because this is not just an aluminum pot, this is actually a vintage Wagner ware Magnolite aluminum pot, and I found simply that this aluminum Dutch oven here is about the best water boiler I've ever owned, and as such there's really nothing better for cooking pasta than than this pot. And especially because it was from Wagner ware, that's really the reason why I enjoy using it, and why I felt it would be appropriate to use here on the live tonight. And this is what we're going to be starting off with. I've got some mac and cheese in the making, and this here is the pasta part of it. Here, on the other hand, we'll be doing our cheese roux here in this next pan. And this one we're doing is not just any pan either, but this is in fact a vintage number 10 Griswold, large logo Griswold number 10, which dates to about the 1920s to 1930s or so. Which again, I felt would be very appropriate for this particular evening here. So we've got some vintage cast iron here. On the other hand, after this is all done, we're going to be preparing a couple of steaks, and for that we're going to be using a modern-day Finex cast iron pan, as well as a relatively vintage Birmingham Stove and Range square skillet. As I mentioned, we do have a representative of Lodge cast iron, and that's the enamel Dutch oven we have in the oven here. So I tried to do a little bit of everything. And in the background, hopefully not causing too much trouble, is my cat, Trouble. But well, if he causes any real trouble, well, I'll have to take care of him. But right now, he's a little busy playing around. Anyway, so, what can I say? But thank you, again, everybody, for showing up here. And I do hope folks enjoy it. I'm looking here at this, and I can see that we've got people watching. Very much appreciated. I'm seeming to be having some trouble reading the comments myself, unfortunately, but I may be able to check in on that. However, the main thing, of course, is to do a little bit of cooking, and I guess to, well, go over the history of the group. But the first thing I should do is drain this pasta. Let me make sure that this pasta here is good and al dente by this point. It certainly looks it, but of course the only way to tell is to do a little taste test. Give me 1 second. Oh yeah, we are just about right now. And this is not just any pasta either. This is this type of pasta I only recently discovered, but some folks know this. They call this cavatappi, and this stuff here really seems to be made for making mac and cheese. Look at the shape of it. It's spiral, it has these ridges on it. This thing here is really made for capturing cheese. Oh, and we can see that this is hot enough too. Good. So, let me just drain this, and then we will get down to the next step. Do wish I could see the comments in this window here, but I seem to be a little, they seem to be in another window, unfortunately, so I'm kind of on my own, I'm sorry to say. I wish I'd known that before I started this Facebook Live. But let's pull this out.
Are you on Facebook Live?
Yeah, yes, Facebook Live, not YouTube Live.
Yeah, Facebook Live. Usually you have to go to where...
Careful. Okay. Alright. Now that that's taken care of...
Right here. You want to click right here?
I get to turn this off? Okay, I will take care of that just in case. Alright, now I get to turn this off so that it doesn't scorch the pasta. And let's get down to making ourselves a roux, shall we? Because really...
Yeah, that's definitely where it is.
Yeah.
Because that's where the... Yeah, see the comment? That's for writing comments, so it'll pop with the rest of the comments. Too.
So I see, okay. Alright, well, I'm not sure if I'm going to take the chance right now.
Yet.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, it looks like we do have people watching, and I'm very appreciative of that. Anyway, now let's get down to some business, shall we? And start, as the cook in Cajun used to say, first you gotta make a roux. And that includes making mac and cheese as well, because believe me, once you have made stovetop mac and cheese in a cast iron pan, you will never be satisfied with that box stuff ever again. Well, almost never, but certainly, because it's really just as easy as this.
Do you want me to put it in here?
I'm sorry?
Do you want me to put it in here? Oh, you've already in there.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Alright.
Okay, looks like she's gotten the cat out of the way. And so far all we're doing right now is just preparing, all we're doing is melting a little butter, and then we will mix in some flour as the first step for our roux. Making mac and cheese, as I found out, there's actually something of a formula to it, because as I've learned the hard way, if you use too much of the flour in the roux, you're going to end up with a roux and a cheese roux that really looks like something out of the Blob, and then it's going to be impossible to make mac and cheese from it. But as I found out, there's actually a real formula for that. I have just put in a 1/4 cup of flour, just all-purpose flour, to go with a 1/4 cup of butter, which is about all we're really going to need for our roux. And once we start that, we will then be mixing in some milk. This isn't going to take long at all, as you can see. That was pretty easy. Let's just start moving this around a little bit. All we have to do is cook the roux. And I forgot to get the milk out of the fridge, but that's not a big deal. I'll take care of that in just a minute or so. So anyway, we just, as anyone who's made gumbo knows, we don't want to burn the roux, which is why we got to keep moving it around here. All we have to do is simply cook off the raw taste of the flour, and then we are ready to start adding in our liquid. Now, actually the magic formula for making for making a mac and cheese roux is you have to have about 8 times the amount of liquid. We've just put in about a 1/4 cup of roux here. You know, a 1/4 cup of flour and a 1/4 cup of butter, which is making about a 1/4 cup of roux. And to this, we're going to have to add 8 times the amount of liquid, meaning 2 cups of milk. And that is really all we're going to need to melt down a pound of cheese. And then we will have ourselves a mac and cheese that can't be beat. Give me just a second here as I prepare, as I get the milk. I'll be very quick, I promise. Yes. And as we're doing this, I will go into a little bit more detail here. That's the other thing, is you don't want to pour in all of the liquid all at once. That's another thing I found out the hard way. If you dump in all the milk, it just will not mix in with the right consistency, and you're going to have to actually end up using more of it. Maybe as much as double the amount just to get the proper cheese roux here. But as I mentioned, in April of 2011, 10 years ago, oh God, I was a young, naive newbie. Like so many people who first discover a hobby for the first time, I had been bitten by the cooking bug in around December of 2010. For most of some people I know, I mean a lot of people on the group here will say that they have been cooking their entire lives, and more power to you, and you have my respect and my thanks. Up until December of 2010, I would have told you I could not cook to save my life. And then, in the midst of a lot of life changes happening that year, I was pretty heavily bitten by the cooking bug. And at the same time, I was also bitten by the cast iron bug, because it was in December of 2010 that not only did I really make my first real attempt at cooking, for the very first time I cooked in a cast iron pan. I took out a rusty Lodge 10-inch skillet that had been sitting on the back of a shelf for 8 years gathering dust and rust. And I used that for the very first time to cook a steak. And I did a terrible job of it. The steak, I did everything wrong to that steak. I poked it, I prodded it, I'm certain I turned the steak into a piece of leather. But here's the important thing. I had an enormous amount of fun. It was absolutely a joy to cook that steak, and it was something of a revelation to me. I enjoyed it so much that, nerd that I was, I actually started doing some research on cast iron, on that cast iron pan and cast iron cookware, and it grew from there. And I caught the bug, which on the group we call cast ironitis, and I was hooked to the point where that one cast iron pan in December of 2010 soon became 2, then 3, then 4, then 6. I probably had somewhere between 8 and 10 cast iron pans by April of 2011. And it was around that point that I was really looking for some internet outlets for this new hobby I had acquired. In those days, in April 2011, there really wasn't much in the way of Facebook discussion groups especially for cast iron cooking. So I guess all I can say is I happened to be in the right place at the right time. I started my own Facebook page, and I called it Cast Iron Cooking. I'll say again, that was a Facebook page, not a Facebook group, because back in those days there was not much of a difference. What I wanted, and what I really wanted to encourage people to do was, well, post your pictures. Talk about cooking in cast iron, and let's see your cooking pictures. you know, pretty much what we do on the group now, except that was in the original days. And the group just started growing really from the outset. I guess it was because there were not many places to go on Facebook in those days for cast iron cooking. People started showing up here on this page. And we started, well, I guess you could say forming friendships. And we had a lot of fun. And as I mentioned, it was a great learning experience. This all started in April of 2011. To the point where, however, something did happen, unfortunately. 2011 passed with a lot of interesting experiences. I remember actually cooking, doing outdoor Thanksgiving cooking, in fact, for in a Dutch oven for the very first time. I cooked 3 Thanksgiving turkeys in a Dutch oven on Thanksgiving of that year. And then in the beginning of 2012, Facebook decided they were going to change around the rules of how their pages and their groups are governed. This obviously, because you know how Facebook is, this was obviously for revenue more than anything else, because they wanted their Facebook pages to be more business related as opposed to the groups, which are more, as they call it, social media. And not bad. This seems to have become a nice smooth sauce at this point, which means it's time to start getting out the cheese. And for the record here, I've got I have a pound of cheese here. We've got 1 pound, 8 ounces of Gouda, and 8 ounces of sharp cheddar. A nice and easy melting cheese, nothing to it. And it's been cut into 1 ounce blocks, but it doesn't have to be. And now all we have to do is start melting our cheese. There's really nothing to it as far as making homemade mac and cheese, and this is so much better again than that stuff that powdery stuff that comes in the box. And now it's really just a matter of stirring it all around until the cheese is melted. But as I mentioned, in 2012, Facebook decided to change the way their pages were set up so that they would be more business oriented, so that businesses could control their pages. And they did that by setting it up so that only the owner of a page could in fact post anything, messages, put posts or pictures on the front of the page for everybody to see. For everybody else who visits a Facebook page, and this is the same way now, there is a so-called posts by others section, which a lot of times is very hard to notice. And what that meant was that about the only person who would be able to be seen on the Cast Iron Cooking group was, well, me, the person running that page, and that was not what I wanted. I spent a few months trying to figure out ways to get around that so that everybody could post their pictures equally, but it really didn't work out. So finally I had to officially end the Facebook page and start a brand new group called Cast Iron Cooking. Now by that point, as it turned out, somebody else had actually taken the group name of Cast Iron Cooking. And so when I started a group for it, that was why I was not able to simply call it, under the groups, call it Cast Iron Cooking, because if you look at the actual internet address for this, it says Cast Iron Skillet. Facebook.com groups Cast Iron Skillet. That's because somebody else had actually taken the Cast Iron Cooking name before I did. I missed the boat. So, well, what can you do? I mean, it's not like there's a copyright or a trademark on the name or anything, so I just went with it. And that's how it has been to this day. Even though the Facebook title says Cast Iron Skillet, the name of this group always has been Cast Iron Cooking. And once again, though, I'm very proud to say, and I'm somewhat perplexed as well, and I'm a little embarrassed, that the group started growing really from the moment it was created. In less than 24 hours from its initial creation, there were over 100 members on it. And those who have started Facebook groups know that that's actually not a bad start. And the group just started growing steadily. Had a lot of fun in those days, in the early days of the group. It was a lot more personal, of course. I actually treated the group as something like a blog more than anything else. And, well, I can see this, by the way, I can see this sauce is steaming, so it's certainly warm enough. Just got to be patient and allow this cheese to melt here. This is fresh cheese. I did only just unwrap it recently, and I'm splashing it all over the place, too. Got to be careful there. But nonetheless, as I said, I treated it as something more of a personal blog than it is now. As the group became more popular and more people started arriving, we had to become, unfortunately, more focused on the topic because, well, just that. The whole point is this is a group about cast iron cooking, so we have to really do everything we can to keep the group on topic. And just as important, we have to not only keep the group on topic, but we also have to keep our drama, I'm sorry to say. Because, what can you say? Facebook attracts drama. Pretty much no matter where you go on Facebook, no matter what the topic is, somehow are going to be political arguments. And it is going to get messy, and unless you keep things on topic and under control, well, it's going to get away from you and become nothing more than a lot of worthless arguments, flames, insults. You know, not the type of thing where people are encouraged to make it a nice family-friendly group. And that was why I reached out to some of the more regular members of the group and encouraged them to become moderators of the Facebook Cast Iron Cooking Group as well. Now, our goal for the group, first and foremost, from the very beginning, has been to make this group a nice, friendly place, especially dedicated to, well, what else? Cooking in cast iron. In that drama is not allowed on this group. Politics are not allowed on this group. And perhaps more than anything else, those are the two things, I think, really, that have helped to keep this group safe and on topic. Because we know that when you come here, pretty much no matter what your political ideologies are, no matter what is going on in the news, no matter, for that matter, whatever your personal preferences are, the simple rule is this: if it's cooked in cast iron, it is welcome on this group. Politics really have no place on this group, and that is a rule I am very proud to have had a part in enforcing and ensuring that this group remains on course and on topic. Because, really, it's just cooking, folks. I mean, cooking is so essential that, I mean, what can you say? It is really one of the here I can get silly and say things like one of the basic building blocks of life. But really, as far as important subjects go, I mean, family, food, and then I guess religion and politics are all very important parts of life. And this is a group where, more than anything else, I want the food to matter, or rather the cooking to matter more than anything else. And that's about all I have to say about that subject, I think. I've done my best really to kind of explain the intentions for the Cast Iron Cooking Group and why it's necessary for us to have moderators to keep the group on topic. I guess that's the only other thing I'll say. Well, two things. Number one is that this is also why we found early on that one of the most important rules that we have had to enforce in this group is no selling. And that goes for everyone, including myself and including the moderators of the group. This is not a group for selling cast iron. This is a group for cooking in cast iron. And the reason for this is just that. We want it to be about the cooking. If we allowed people to start selling cast iron on this group, it would become a group for selling cast iron. You know, it's like, oh, I go there to sell. Oh, and sometimes post pictures because I'm selling these pans. No. We want this to be a group especially for cooking. And besides, as well, once you start dealing with selling, then you have to start dealing with money transactions. And then, of course, you've got to start have to handle money arguments. And then come a whole bunch of rules that we're not interested in enforcing because it's not about cooking. And that's why we say we have a no selling rule in this group. In fact, there are quite a few groups out there now, quite a few Facebook groups out there, especially for selling cast iron. And we like these groups a lot. I like to think we are on good friendly terms with the best of the cast iron selling groups, such as Iron Man Auctions, for instance. That's one of my favorite places to go to look for vintage cast iron. If you have not been to the Facebook group Iron Man Cast Iron Auctions, I very much recommend it. Because as far as selling cast iron and buying cast iron goes, that's probably one of the most honest and fair places you are likely to see here on Facebook. And look at this. See, just needed a little bit of patience. This cheese is in fact melting. We've got ourselves a real cheese sauce in the making here. So things are going nicely. And having said all that about the rules of the group, now comes the fun part. Thank you especially to the moderators and the admins of the group, really, for helping to keep these rules going and putting the rules above everything else, especially above personal drama. And that's really, I think, more than anything else, why this group has been so much fun. Because above all else, above the rules, above everything else, this group would not have been a success without all of you folks, everyone here. In particular, the admins, and I am not going to keep on thanking the moderators of the group for their efforts in helping to make sure everybody can enjoy the group. Because without all their efforts, this group long ago would have, would really have lapsed into a wasteland. It's for reasons like that. I mean, it's because of the strong efforts of the moderators, for instance, that we don't see viral videos on here. Why don't we post viral videos on this group? Because they're about cast iron cooking? Well, you consider this. Those viral videos out there are just a type of spam. They're meant really to be seen and spread all over the place. And every time a new viral video becomes popular, it is posted to the cast iron cooking group. Dozens and dozens and dozens of times. I can't even begin to hint at how many times I have seen, for instance, oh, Southern Law and Order here. These people, these folks are on trial because they did bad things to their cast iron skillet. Or the laser rust remover, this really fancy laser that just burns rust right off of cast iron. Isn't it great? And the cast iron lid lifter from that company or another. And of course, all of those little meme pictures, you know the ones. The 12 or 13 rules of how to use cast iron, or things that you should not do with a cast iron pan. All of these things have been posted to the group hundreds and hundreds of times before. And quite frankly, the regulars on the group are really tired of seeing them, because we've seen them all before. That's why the viral videos are really not kept out of the group, because we've seen them all before. There's no need for them. Instead, we encourage all of you to post your your pictures, your videos. Yeah, I mean, make your own little homemade videos with cameras and camera phones and all that, and post them there to the group. We very much encourage you to do that. This Facebook Live that I'm doing here, anybody here can do a Facebook Live, and we don't mind. We don't mind if someone wants to do so, as long as you keep it on topic for the group. We very much encourage it. We want you to post your pictures and your videos here and your recipes and share your fun adventures in cooking in cast iron. Have I talked enough yet? Because guess what? Looks like this cheese roux is done. Cheese roux is ready, I would say. I've got to see if I can do anything about these comments. Hold on one second here. I've been talking nonstop because I have not been able to see the comments. I want to take a second and see if I can bring these comments up here. Alright, what do we have here? That's not it. That is just editing. Why am I not able to see the comments? Oh, there they are. There are the comments. Boy, it took me long enough to see all those comments. Well, thank you for waiting, folks. Yeah, I can see everyone here. Bill LeBlanc, Benjamin Rowe, Shelley, Lori, Jonna, Wally, Ahmad, all of you. And yes, hello, happy anniversary to everyone. Thank you for putting up with all of my ramblings here, folks, while I just kept on talking to fill time because I could not see these comments before now. Oh, and thank you everybody very much for showing up. Been a member for I don't know how long. Benjamin Rowe. There were just over 6,000 people. Yeah, now we're at over 400,000 and it's still going and going. Cynthia Morgan. Hello, Cast Iron Cooking and Jamie. Happy anniversary. And every celebration needs good food, and well, I hope we've started off with some good food here. In fact, I think I better turn this heat down now before I burn it. Now that we've got ourselves some cheese sauce here, all we have to do now is add a little bit of mustard, dried mustard, and to that we mix in one of my favorite ingredients, which would be smoked paprika. Darn that Alton Brown for introducing me to smoked paprika. And we mix this in. And with that, we've got ourselves a cheese sauce. Which means that now that we've got this, we can turn this off, in fact, because I think it's hot enough now. Now that we have our cheese sauce, time to add the pasta. As I mentioned, this stuff here is really made for use in mac and cheese. It's this cavatappi style. It has very long spirals. Gotta be careful there. Very long spirals. It has ridges, and of course, it's all, it's hollow, which means that all of this is really just made for mac and cheese. Hard to do better, in fact. So here's a starter, folks. We've got ourselves some stovetop mac and cheese made in a number 10 Griswold skillet. I might say it's hard to do better, except once this is all set, I intend to do better. Because now that this is done, we get down to the star of the show. And that would be the steak. Anyway, having said all that, I've talked again about the history of the group. As I mentioned, all of this started in 2012. We changed the cast iron. We changed from a Facebook page to a Facebook group, and really never looked back. The group indeed did grow at a regular rate. In that it was in July of 2012 that the Facebook group that we're on now first started. We managed to hit 1,000 subscribers by probably either October or November. And we had a grand time going through into 2013. Funny thing is, though, I can definitely say that when this when the Cast Iron Cooking Group hit 5,000 members, then that was when something really strange happened, and the group just plain took off. It seemed as though all of a sudden, after we passed 5,000 members, the group just started growing. I think maybe we might have gotten, for the first time, onto Facebook's recommended groups list, because we started growing and did not stop. Because next thing we knew, after taking nearly a year to reach 5,000 members, suddenly, within maybe 3 months or so, we had doubled our membership to 10,000 members. And then came 20,000 members, and 25. And then lo and behold, we were at 50,000 members. I was flabbergasted. I mean, in no way when I first started this did I ever expect that this group would reach 50,000 members. Here I am saying that when, as you know, we are actually on track that by the end of the year we could very well reach 500,000 members after 10 years, admittedly. But the growth has been simply phenomenal, and as I've said before, this could not be done without all of you folks, without all of you wonderful people posting all of your great cast iron creations, many of which are very much worthy of their own magazine covers, and especially again of the administrators who've done such a great job in helping to keep the group on topic. Because I guess, especially in these days where politics seems to ruin everything, we have done our best to keep politics out of the group, especially so that folks can, more than anything else, enjoy themselves. And here is one of the results of enjoying ourselves with some cast iron cooking. We have ourselves a wonderful mac and cheese. Stovetop mac and cheese here, made without that Kraft Dinner powder, and instead made by melting our own cheddar and Gouda. And so that is dish actually number 2. As I mentioned, dish number 1 is in the oven right now. Not a bad start, I'd say, so far, though. I mean, let me see if I can lift this carefully. Give everybody a good shot here. Gotta be careful here. I'm actually getting over a wrist injury. Nonetheless, wow, it's been over half an hour already? I haven't even gotten to the good part. Well, then I guess it's time to get to the good part, isn't it? Let us instead start moving things around a little bit. Let's turn these off over here. Pardon me for sticking myself in the camera like that. Let's see, let's move this out of the way carefully. Let us put this over here. Let's move this onto a side burner. Bring out the star of the show and start heating up 2 more cast iron pans so that they get good and screaming hot. I've already been preheating these on the other burners meanwhile, so these things are actually pretty hot as it is. But of course, considering that we're now going to be making ourselves some steaks, well, yeah, you better believe we want these things to get good and hot. Now, as I mentioned before, what we have here is a Finex. And I think I've got to get a second glove. Here we are. What we have here, in fact, is a Finex cast iron skillet here. This is a very special pan. This number 12 was made in 2014, and I'm very pleased to say that this was actually a Christmas present from none other than Jeff Rogers, the culinary fanatic. And in addition, I think I should give special thanks to Jeff as well, because, you know, It was the cat. He has said, and I've no doubt he will confirm, that it was the cast iron cooking group that really encouraged him to start cooking in cast iron. Now, the culinary fanatic, I mean, he was one of the first real YouTube superstars when it came to cast iron. I mean, he did this video on restoring and seasoning cast iron that has become the #1 method for seasoning cast iron. I believe it was Jeff, in fact, who started the 3-step method of heating your pan to 200 degrees, adding your seasoning and wiping it off, and then heating it to 300, wiping it again, and then heating it to 400 for 4 hours. I believe he was the pioneer of that. And now everybody does that. Even a lot of established companies, they season their cast iron thanks to Jeff's method. And Jeff, of course, is also known as, what else? Mr. Mac and Cheese. Oh, speaking of which, now I only thought of this right now. 1 second, please. Namely, I should cover that mac and cheese with a lid. What a concept there. So that it doesn't, so that it stays warm and doesn't dry out. So we got ourselves a number 10 Griswold lid here. There, that'll take care of that. Anyway, as I mentioned, it was Jeff's mac and cheese, really, that has also become pretty world famous, and really, a lot of that, I'm pleased to say it was the cast iron cooking group that encouraged Jeff to become such a wonderful cook. Granted, I mean, it was his own talent, really, that made him a superstar, and this was really just something that helped give him a push, but, well, I'm very honored to have been part of that. And there are a lot of other people as well on the group that I'm very pleased to say. They have said that the cast iron cooking group has encouraged them to do things like try new things as far as cooking is concerned, and that really is about as good a reward as I think you can get. Now, the group is, of course, run entirely on a non-profit basis. Facebook gets all the revenue. None of the admins of the group are paid for this in any way. And as such, really, I think the enjoyment from the group has been really more than anything else is what has made all of this worthwhile. So, okay, enough with the maudlin stuff. Let's do one other thing. And let us start preparing ourselves a steak or two. So if you don't mind, I'm going to temporarily move this over. Get to another view here. I can move this out of the way, in fact. And let's start preparing ourselves a couple of steaks, shall we? And not only do we have steaks here, but we've got ourselves a couple of nice big semi-bone-in ribeyes. Because if we're going to do some cast iron cooking, we're going to do it right. Or at least I hope we're going to do it right. And that means I'm initially getting rid of most of the moisture. These things have been sitting in their package for about the past hour or so, so they are pretty close to room temperature at this point. In that case, there is really not much more to be done here. Let me quickly get this. So from here, all we're going to have to do now is, yes, I did wash my hands too. Now that the steaks are dry, or more or less patted dry, move this out of the way. Let us quickly, how am I going to do this? Okay. Give each of these steaks a nice generous coating of kosher salt. Put on a little bit of ground black pepper. turn the steaks over and do the same thing. Kosher salt. Black pepper. And now, back to the fun stuff. It's time now to do some cooking. What we have here is just a little bit of corn oil, because I've had good luck using corn oil on my steaks. Has a nice high smoke point. Does not have too much flavor, additional flavor I should say. Where the heck did I put it? Here it is. Better turn on the fan now, though, while I'm thinking of it. Move this around a little bit. Oh, and one other thing as well, speaking of brand names, I'm really proud of these little tongs here, which are in fact Vollrath tongs. And those of you who know vintage cast iron may know that the Vollrath company is still in existence, although they haven't made cast iron cookware since about World War II. But enough talking. Let's cook a steak. Or two. And this is where we get our other secret weapon, namely a probe thermometer. If you really want to be sure these steaks are not overcooked, we want to do some temperature control. Okay, I'll be leaving it on for maybe another minute or so. Meanwhile, of all this, looking at our comments here. Hello, Drew. Hello, Alfara. So many good recipes. I'm very glad. That, as I mentioned, is really all we can ask. And I very much appreciate everybody who has shown up and who has commented, and especially who has taken part in the group. So, ooh, yeah, I can smell this already. Good start already. Because really, what else? I mean, if we're going to be celebrating cast iron cooking, what else can we make but steak? Quite simply, there is nothing, and I mean nothing in the world that will sear yourself a steak better than a cast iron pan. And I am including the grill, even if some grillers may disagree with me on that. That's what I mean. I gotta keep an eye on this. The steaks right now seem to have reached about 90 degrees, so don't want it to get too hot. And call it personal preference. Here's where folks may disagree on this. I really find that for doing something like searing a steak, for instance, I prefer to reach for a thicker heavier cast iron pan. Sorry? Okay, and where the cast? Okay, good. Yeah, I prefer to reach for a thicker, heavier cast iron pan. I mean, as much as I like the thin cast iron, like the vintage pans, for instance, the thicker cast iron, I think, actually retains its heat better. I don't really have good scientific proof to back it up other than my own experience, which is anecdotal. But even so, this is my preference. And that's why I've really, really enjoyed this Finex pan. And as well as the other thick brands, such as Birmingham Stove and Range here. Now to this, I'm going to throw in a bit of butter. Keep an eye on the temperature. We're probably getting close to the time already. Yes, indeed. We are getting almost at that time already. So, I'm sorry? What, the mic isn't loaded? Oh, okay, good, good. Yours is ready. Sorry. All right, then in that case, there's one. Just one last flip. And with that, we will be just about ready. But anyway, that didn't take long at all, especially compared to melting that cheese, did it? And dish number 2 is ready, and that still hasn't taken too long, all things considered. Now I get to turn these things down. That certainly did not take long at all. Now I get to just move this out of the way for a little bit, because I certainly don't want to waste this this wonderful grease here in the pan. While this is going, in fact, I'm going to do something a little bit different. And this is going to go with the third and last dish that we have for here tonight. Oh yeah, thank you so much everybody for showing up. I'm afraid I've been a little busy cooking. I apologize for not saying too much about the comments here, but I know that the admins of the group have really been keeping up. And as always, I can only thank everybody really for watching more than anything else. This has been a lot of fun tonight. We are not quite done yet. This is where I appreciate everybody's patience here. got one last thing to prepare that may be a little bit different from what folks might expect. Come on, do this right, shall we? Oh yeah, you too. Come on. What the blazes is going on now? Sorry for the delay, folks. Ugh. I'm trying to get this out as best as we can. Ugh. What's going on here? There's always something. Yeah. Come on. As quickly as we can. There's always something. Damn thing is not coming out. Oh, there it goes. At last. At last. At last. Very much appreciate your patience, folks. What are we talking about now? Well, how about this? This is a very unusual dish to some. This is what we call New England brown bread. And this is going to go with the third and last dish that we have coming tonight. Specifically, we're going to do a little bit toasting. Since I've got all of that wonderful grease, I'm not going to waste it. Just very quickly toast ourselves up some of this New England brown bread to go with our last dish tonight. Even though the burner's turned off, the pan is still hot enough to easily toast this. And that is what I'm really looking forward to. Because now we get to move this out of the way. But thank you for your patience, folks, and we are almost done here because we've got one last thing to show you tonight. Be, if I can bring this out nicely, a large enameled Dutch oven, which has been slow cooking all day. To produce one of my favorites, and that would be Boston baked beans, anyone? That's why we had brown bread to go with it. But there we go. It was really my intention just to provide a little sample of the many, many, many dishes that have been cooked in cast iron on this wonderful Facebook group. I mean, tonight we've got a couple of really good ribeye steaks to go with this, some mac and cheese, and on top of that, Boston baked beans and brown bread. I realize, of course, most people go for the cornbread, and I love cornbread as well. But what can I say? I've got a New England heritage that I very much enjoy. And I have indeed grown up eating Boston baked beans. There's simply nothing like it. Which is why I just felt I had to show this off as part of the celebration tonight. Oh yeah. As far as I'm concerned, I think it's hard to do better. And now finally, for our last bit, I think, one last thing I have to show folks and hope that I did this right. Namely, we're gonna make a steak in cast iron. Move this over closely. We're gonna do a steak in cast iron. And we're gonna have to cut the steak. See if it turned out all right. Which means here comes the moment of truth. Come on. Here we go. And the results? Say, other than the knife is not the best, unfortunately. The knife may not be the best, but as far as the steak's concerned, we certainly turned out well here. There we go at last. Thank you for everyone's patience. And steak juice all over everything. Nonetheless, we've got ourselves a couple of ribeyes here tonight, along with, one last time, some mac and cheese, Boston baked beans, and brown bread, which I hope has been a decent way of celebrating 10 years on this great cast iron cooking group. Let me back up for a moment. And let me quickly see what I can do about these comments here. I very much apologize for not being able to do a running tally of the comments, but I'm afraid I've been a little busy doing the cooking right now. As such, I can only very much appreciate, again, everybody who has stopped by. But there's really not much more I can say other than thank you so much to everyone. For Mary Lynn, for Isha, bread toasted in butter and steak drippings. Yes, please. Yes, indeed. And Mary Lynn, I enjoy seeing pieces I've never seen before. Well, thank you. Yeah, I know. That's a really fun part of this hobby. I think the steak was a success as well. Love the look and design of the Finex from their very first production runs. Congratulations to Bill LeBlanc and Shannon Flint and Drew and Debbie and so many others. This has been a lot of fun. This little live video has been kind of exhausting, of course, because I had to keep talking as I cooked, and I wanted to be sure not to spoil anything. But I would say this has all turned out to be quite a success. And again, I can only thank everybody really for tuning in and watching tonight. And this, of course, has been the 10-year, I guess, birthday of the Cast Iron Cooking Group, with no end in sight. We are on track so that hopefully by the end of the year we'll make about 500,000 members. Can you believe that? I mean, considering that, most of the folks here probably have more than one cast iron pan. We're talking at least 1 million pieces of cast iron on this Facebook group. But all of that cast iron really would not mean anything if not for all of you wonderful people who used it and loved it so much. And if that sounds a little maudlin or tear-jerking, well, hey, we can have at least one tear-jerking moment like that, because really, more than anything else, this has been a lot of fun, and I can only hope it has been for everyone else as well. And I can only thank everybody really, for just making this group so much of a success. Thank you very much for everybody. I think we've got to get down and have ourselves some dinner here. And if this has made everybody else hungry, good. Go and cook something wonderful tonight. And above all else, have fun. Thank you for watching, everybody. Have a good evening.